Hi guys, today this is the seventh episode of this Python of the Python learning series, and today this is a continuation of episode 6 where we learned about loops, and then now in this episode we're going to learn the content the attributes named the continue, break, and break. And not only that, did you know that you can also use the else attribute for both the for and the while loops? I'll tell you how. I'll tell you how, and some exercises that we will do for you and explain the logic behind the code. The logic behind the code. Um, first is the continue. This attribute is like it's like that stop this script block from scratch, but instead of stopping the entire instead of stop but it stops the code it stops the code from being triggered inside the loop. And note that this continue block doesn't doesn't shut down the entire loop once. It will the for example for example, if a logical statement is true from this if, then it will continue on. Then it will continue on with without with without running any of the code that is below this continue loop. So basically, I forgot to mention that. Sorry. So what the continue loop does finally is after this is run from the computer, the program will not run any of the code that is below this continue loop. It basically skips the code skips the code that is below, and then goes to the second part of the loop, which will run again. Note that this continue can be used without an if, like this. So here we use the continue loop to skip the part where where the where all the vowels are added. For in this is this membership operator in. It checks if this is if the character or LW is one of the vowels in this string. If you don't know if you don't know what vowels are, maybe you should go and ask your English teacher, because I'm not really gonna mention them, but I'm not really gonna mention them. That maybe later, when I share English. Well, where are we again? Oh yeah, when the character LW is in here, the program execute the continue attribute, and then we'll skip the and then we'll skip the part where the program adds the vowel to the word. Well, basically this is the control variable in this for loop, which will increase by 1. Wait, which will which which this for loop will basically looks at the index of the characters of the string given from the user input here, from the user input here, and then checks for each character if it is a vowel or not. If it is a vowel, it will not add it. It will not add it, but it will not add it. it will skip the part where it adds. Basically, it doesn't add that vowel to the output. For example, if I put something like strawberry, and in the word strawberry, it has one and two, two vowels, and after I give the user input, the program removes the vowels. It because the continue makes the program skip the part where it adds the vowels. Where it adds the vowels, as you can see, the vowels are gone. That's how you know. That's how you know and when to use when to use a continue function. Use the continue function when you don't want the program to do something after some certain logical statement is true. That's it for the continue attribute. Now we'll move to the break attribute. What the break attribute is, it's basically the same as the continue attribute, but instead of skipping the code, the code that is below it, it stops the entire loop. It stops the entire loop from running. From running. So I will not increase anymore, and the loop basically shuts down after this break statement has been executed. This program here uses the break loop to check if a word has a vowel in it. If a word has a vowel in it. For example, how it checks a word, it's kind of similar like the continue function where there's a control variable, and a control variable acts as like the index, and it will check, and this part will looks at every character of the word, starting from the first character, then to the with the index of 0, all the way to the last character. And then it checks if the character corresponding to the index is one of the vowels, using the same membership operator in. Then if it is a vowel, that means this is true. It will execute the break attribute, and then it will stop the entire loop. And after this loop has stopped, it will then print this code out with the remaining words, with the words that are not vowels, that are, well, how do you explain it? Well, basically, G is assigned to the characters of the string that are not vowels. But it's only assigned to vowels that to characters that are not vowels that came before the first vowel. Before the first vowel was detected. It will check. Yes, it will be assigned to the characters that are not that came before the first vowel. I'll run the code as a test. I'll type in something like banana. Uh, banana has three vowels. So it will print out, and then it check. Yeah. This part checks. This part checks if the length of that, if the length of this is equivalent to the total length, the total characters in the output we gave, that is the that using this length function. Using this length function. Well, if you didn't really get that, here's what the computer is doing. First, I is set to 0. Then in range of W, for in the banana, when I is 0, I when I is 0, that means I is equal to B. The well that's the index, because the index of V is 0, and the index 0 is also equal to the value of I at the start, or 0. Then when all the code has been executed, it will move, and then I will increase by 1. I will increase by 1, so I is then equal to 1. So I will shift to A. Then after that it will then shift to N, then A, then to N, and then to A. This process will basically repeat until it reaches the last character. If you have But basically, you gave the maximum amount of times this for loop has to run, and the maximum number of times is equal to the total number of characters in the string you gave. And then this calls for the word assigned to the to the integer value I, or you can say I is the index, and this part calls for the index for the word assigned to that index. For example, if I were equal to 0, then that means this will call for the very first character in the list, or in this case B, because I entered the word banana. And then when I is equal to 1, then it will call for the second character, or A. Well, this lower function will basically converts text to lowercase. No, it cannot convert numbers to lowercase. I think yeah, you can't really do that to numbers. And then that's all for the break function. And then that's all for the break function. You use this break function when you want to completely stop a loop entirely after a certain logical statement is true from this if. Hey, remember the part when I said that you can also use the else for both fors and whiles? How? Yes, that is true. So how? Wait a second. Uh, so 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 the so for the else, the code that is inside this inside this else, it will be executed after the loop has fully the loop has fully reached its maximum amount of times that it can repeat that they can repeat the code inside that loop. And note that if this for note that if the loop was stopped by a break loop, by a break attribute, it is not going to execute the else. It needs to fully repeat the maximum amount of times before before it before it executes the else. Let me set up our test real quick. Give me some few moments to close off the code using three of these double brackets. Without the break statement in the for, the text will look like this. The text will look like this. It's just basically 12 ones plus this string. But if I suddenly add a break loop in it, after, it's just going to print out. I predict it's going to print out one singular one and no text. See, it'll print out one, then it will stop the loop, and then since the total number of times the loop has executed the code hasn't reached the maximum value, it will not print. It is not going to print. It's not going to execute the else. That logic follows for the while loop. For the while loop, if there's a break in it, it will not execute the else. It will not execute the else. It will just print one singular one, or basically any code you write here one time before stopping, and then since the total number of times run is lit. And then since they have suddenly stopped, it's not going to it's not going to execute the else. However, it will execute it after this logical statement is true. Like this. I increases by 1 in the while loop, and this will repeat until I is equal to this will repeat this print function, adding one some amount of times, unless I is less than or equal to 12. If you don't put the fact that I increases by 1, then you'll just get an infinite loop where like the forever loop in Scratch, but you can't really stop the forever loop. So it's kind of annoying. Please do not forget to add how much I increases in the while loop. Well, that's something new. Now, let's do some exercises. let's do some exercises. This is an exercise that I kind of made before. That I kind of made before for this occasion, and the job for this program to and the job for this program find the sum of all is well finding the sum of all the odd numbers in some list in some list that has randomly generated numbers from 1 to 100, from 1 to 100, and not adding even. Also this also if also the problem also if you want to go the extra mile. Also, I wanted to go the extra mile. I mean, I wanted to go the extra mile, so I decided to state that state the state the even numbers and their index in the list. So how to do those? First we need to generate the list first. We'll use a new function we haven't learned this called the random module. A module is basically those extensions like the pen extension in Scratch. You have to directly import them here. Import random. But instead of just calling them random, you can call them any other. You can call them any other name you want. For example, I named my random as R using this as attribute. Using this as attribute. I called my name out just for so that I could type it more easy. Yeah. And then I used the random integer function from the random module to generate all the random to generate all the random numbers from 1 to 100. Between 1 to 100. So the random integer function does, or the randint for short, basically generates whole value pot whole numbers get whole numbers in a certain range. That is, you give the minimum range and the maximum range. And then this append function, this will adds those random values into the empty list. Into empty list, you call the empty list by putting 2 square brackets. And then here, this is where the program states the even numbers that are in our list and states the index of those even numbers in that list. For example, if take some number 2, that 2 was detected in the list. If the 2 had an index of say 0, that is the first index. Instead of the program saying that there's the 0, that the number 2 with the index 0 of list was set as an even number. I added a +1 to make it seem more realistic. There is no such thing as a 0th index. that is that is logically speaking though. But in computer programming, the zeroth index is possible though. Is possible. So just to make it more realistic, I just decided to add +1. So L index. So basically, this is the list. This is the name of my list. And then this is the index. Sorry, my bad. This basically calls for the number assigned to that index. The number called for that index, which will obviously be an even number. And then well, the computer, the program also tells the index of that number. Well, using the format, using our good old format, using a good old string formatting technique. Like, I think I mentioned that in episode 5, and maybe you should check that out. Because I don't want to explain what this f is here any further. And of course, we don't want to add that even number, so we'll do a continue, skipping the part where that odd number, where that number from the list, that means the number called from the that means the number called from the index doesn't get added to the sum of odd numbers in that list. Then note that the continue doesn't completely stop the loop entirely, unlike the break function or attribute. It basically, I told you before, it skips the code that is below it. So if this logical statement is true, and that the number associated with that index modulo 2 is 0, that means it is divisible by 2. The modulus checks the remainder dividing two numbers. If the remainder is 0, then that means that number is divisible by the divisor. That's the number to the right of this of the modulus function, or this percentage. And then after this while loop has finished, and that the length and that this index is equivalent to the length of this subtracted by 1. Well, this subtracted 1 is very specific to avoid a certain error that you'll probably meet in the program while you're running this on your own VS Code. And then after after the while loop has truly stopped, and that the index is greater than the length of that list, we will then print out our sum using the same format technique. For example, in our list, the 57, 99, 16, 39, all the way up to 30, they're all members of that list. And we can see here 16, 26, 78, and 30 are all even numbers. We don't want even numbers. And this is where the numbers are. This is where the computer will, the program will then tell the even numbers that are in the list and the index of that even numbers in that list. For example, 16 has an index of 3, but in VS Code, it's actually 2, as the first index is 0, but to be realistic, I added +1, so that when you count them, so you start with 1, then 2, then 3. The one here, that's the first index is 1, 2, 3. Then the second even number found, 26, here. The sixth index, the 6 with an index of 6, index of 5, computery speak. I don't know. In VS Code. And then the 9th index or the 8th index in this list, if you in VS Code, 78, and then 30, which is the last index. And then it will add all the sum, all the odd numbers using the sum. Using this, the addition assignment operator. Well, the assignment operator, and then it will call for the number assigned to that index. So add that. And then from this, it gives out 261 as the sum of all the odd numbers in the list. I think this will be the only example I'll give today, as if I gave more examples of the breaks and the breaks of the breaks continues and the while and the else's used in for and while loops. I think it will take like forever. So I'm just gonna end it here. But well, before I go though, I want to mention something that I should have mentioned all the way back at episode 1. I'm kind of sorry. I kind of sorry I didn't mention that. I thought it wasn't important, but to my dismay, it was. My bad. So I'm gonna mention it right now and then end. So ever wonder how does a computer run the program? So what's happening here is, first, when you click the run Python file button, the computer scans the code here, and then processes all the text in that code into a new language that the computer's CPU can understand. Or this is called machine language. This language is what the computer CPU understands, and the computer CPU is where the real magic happens, and the computer CPU will now knows what to execute because it knows the language. and that will execute the result, and then eh, but then if we just end it there and just give the and just instantly get the result from the CPU, it will just be machine language. It will just be machine language that we can't understand very well. So then that result is then converted back again to the English text that we all know and love. We all know and love, and then that decoded text is then outputted as a result. You can see all of these, all you can see all of these results from results from a program, and those were decoded from machine language. That is, see, and the original results are and the original results. They first had to be encoded into machine language so that the CPU can understand and actually run the code, then the results are then converted or decoded back to our normal English language that we humans can understand, and then that result is outputted in the terminal here. So that's all. So that's the extra things I like to say. And so finally, I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry if I kind of stuttered a lot. I'm not used to speaking well. I'm trying to improve on that. And I'll see you on the next episode. Bye bye. And make sure to like and subscribe, please. It makes me motivated to make more videos.